remember when you were a kid at Halloween and you could create any character that you wanted to just by deciding to do it? I mean, it was as easy as grabbing a towel and tying it around your neck, and all of a sudden you were transformed into a superhero. You know, as kids, these were personas or characters that we were trying on, and there was no limits to our creativity back then. You know, today, we are still creating personas. We have a professional persona when we go to work. With our kids, we have a parenting persona. And with our mother-in-law, we might have another persona. And all of these personas are part of our personality. They shape who we are. But as adults, you know what? Too often, we alter our personas because we want to fit into society. Because we worry too much about what people think of us, and it's just easier to conform rather than stand out. Now, I graduated college back in the 80s, and I went to work for IBM for a decade, so I know a little bit about conforming. I went on to work for a few startups, actually wrote 3 books on marketing, became a consultant and a keynote speaker, and, you know, I had accomplished a lot. And I think people who looked at me thought that I was successful, but that's not how I felt on the inside. I'd become bored with the work I was doing. I started to become insecure, and can I tell you, at 47 years old, I didn't think I could just reinvent myself and go do something completely different. I just felt stuck. And you know, one night I was sitting at home, just flipping channels, and I stumbled upon a television show called RuPaul's Drag Race. Woo! Now, those of you who know the show, you know it's hosted by the most famous drag queen in the world, RuPaul. And this was a reality competition show where the top drag queens in the country would come together to compete to win the title of America's Next Drag Superstar. Well, can I tell you, I couldn't pull my eyes away from what I was seeing on the screen because these were men, and they were creating fierce, fabulous female characters for the stage. They were using wigs and theatrical makeup and costuming to transform into these female personas. But you know what? It was really their attitudes that I totally loved because they were bold, they were dynamic, they were still feminine, but they had a stiletto-sharp wit and a give-no-fucks attitude. And I started watching season after season of the show, and I realized, you know what? Drag queens are amazing role models for how to create confidence. They can create bold personas. They own the way they look. They're not afraid to take risks. They can command attention just by using powerful body positions, and they shake off criticism with a flip of the wig. And that's what I wanted for myself. And you know, RuPaul said something on the show that really changed my thinking about how I could get that confidence. She said, "We're all born naked, and the rest is drag." So we normally think of drag as performance art for the stage, but RuPaul is saying that we are all performing these drag personas every day. So I don't know if you knew it when you left the house today, but you came out in drag. Look at yourself, you're in drag right now. But it isn't just what you wear. It's also how you act, what you say, how you interact with other people. And because we're in drag, we can create any persona we want and then transform into it whenever we want to, just like when we were kids at Halloween. Well, I wanted the power and confidence of what I saw on the show with those drag queens. And so I thought, you know, I could take on the ultimate transformation. And I decided that I, Jackie Huba, while still doing my day job, would become a drag queen. And I wonder, some of you are thinking, really? Women can do drag? It's true. Most people think of drag queens as men, right, who create these female characters, but there are actually other forms of drag, just lesser known. So for example, there are women who create a male character for the stage, and that's called a drag king. And then there's actually women who create that female character for the stage, and that's called a bio queen, a faux queen, or just a female drag queen. Now, I'm an author, I write books, and I thought, my next book has got to be about this transformative power of drag. And then I could do this crazy drag queen thing as research. Now, I don't have a background in theater, or dancing, or art, or any of that, so I had to put myself through my own drag boot camp. And those of you who know drag queens know that drag queens are really great at seducing a crowd. And I've never felt like a sexy person. So I threw myself into a 6-week burlesque class. Yeah. And I get to class, and I just couldn't do it. I couldn't become that sexy persona, and I just wanted to quit. And then I thought, now, honey, what would a real drag queen do right now? Would she quit? Oh, hell no. She would work out that confidence and go back to class. So that's what I did. I started to immerse myself in the world of drag. I saw hundreds of live drag performances, and I actually interviewed the top drag queens in the world about how they created those personas and then how I could do it for myself. It was amazing. I actually sought out the top drag queen in all of Austin, Texas, Miss Kelly Klein. And she actually taught me and mentored me in wig styling and theatrical makeup and the art of costuming and lip sync. And you know what? I learned every single thing that a male drag queen learns how to do except how to tuck. Okay, if you don't know tucking, I'll just explain. If you are a man creating a female character for the stage, you gotta hide the between me down there. And luckily, I didn't have to learn how to do that. But I wanted to, as a woman, be very theatrical and over the top with my performances. So I always use backup dancers. And let me tell you, when you use backup dancers, you feel like Beyonce. You should try it. Oh, I want to tell you something about my drag character for a second. I wanted to tell you about how I named her. I thought about 2 women who were really powerful that I wanted to sort of model myself after. And one of them is Trinity from the Matrix movies. You guys know that? Yeah. Trinity is a badass female fighter who can hold her own with the guys in the film. And she wears really nice, sleek, sexy latex outfits. And then my last book was on Lady Gaga. And Lady Gaga is a character that Stephanie Germanotta, and that's her real name, created when she was very young and she was getting into the record industry and she really needed a lot of confidence. And so I named my drag character Lady Trinity. And I wanted her to come alive, so I actually created social media accounts for Lady Trinity, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. And I started posting all these photos and videos of how I was making this transformation. But I hadn't told a lot of people about this thing I was doing. And I started to realize, holy crap, Lady Trinity is Googleable? What if my consulting clients could put 2 and 2 together and see what this wacky thing I was doing? I was really nervous. But just like before, I thought, you know what? What would a real drag queen do right now? Would she be afraid of what people thought of her? No, she would leave that out there. And so that's what I did. And earlier this year, I was actually accepted to perform in one of the top drag events in the world. It was called the Austin International Drag Festival, with over 200 performers from all over the world, including some of the legends of drag. Can I tell you, I was so honored to be accepted, but I was scared to death. And I will never forget, that night of my performance, I'm standing there with my backup dancers, and we're ready to hit the stage. Now, I have to follow the top Britney Spears impersonator, Mr. Derek Barry. He's the top impersonator in the world. And I have to muster every ounce of courage I have to just make it out on that stage. And when I get out there, the first thing that happened was I tripped. And there was a speaker cable, and somehow I kept going, and I tripped over that. And it threw off the choreography. And next thing I know, I'm banging into a backup dancer. It was horrible. And I was so humiliated. But then I looked out into the crowd, and the audience was smiling back at me. And there was actually some people who had their hands outstretched with dollar bills in it. And they were tipping. Those tips were for me. Because, good audiences, they actually tip their drag queens. And I thought in that moment, you know what? What would a real drag queen do right now? Would she quit and just walk off that damn stage? No. She would keep going, and she would turn the party. And so that's what I did. And as I walked off the stage, I just felt defeated. And I looked down as I walked off, and my fellow drag performers were standing there, and one of them actually walked up to me, and she hugged me, and she said, "Girl, you are fabulous." Because that's also what drag queens do. And what I started to realize through all of this is that it's not just about doing drag, but it's about what drag queens can do for all of us, what the power of drag can do for all of us. Drag allows us to become the image of our imagination. It allows us to create personas that we can channel when we need them. And psychologists actually call this power priming our brains, which means that we can feel more powerful just by thinking about ourselves as a powerful figure. So for you, I wonder if there's something coming up, next week or next month that you're afraid of. You could really use a boost of power and confidence. It could just be Monday morning, you gotta go to work and ask the boss for another raise, or maybe you have to go back to school and now you see yourself as a student, or maybe you just want to protest local laws in your city and you've never thought of yourselves as a protester. Remember, you are all in drag. So you can transform yourself into any persona, any bold, powerful persona, and then channel that when you need it. Now for me, I took on that ultimate transformation, actually did drag, but now I have this Lady Trinity character, and whenever I'm afraid or fearful, I just think, now what would Lady Trinity do right now? And so for you, I don't know if you're going to put on a wig and sequin dress and high heel shoes, or maybe you will. But the great thing is you need to get outside yourself and build that persona and then channel it when you need it. And here's a really great thing now. I might walk into a room and I look like this. And what's really cool is that underneath I have Lady Trinity's boldness. And she makes me feel like this.
Professional.